Hello from Bali. This is a podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about foolproofing and let's start with the definition.
Maybe I will start from another angle, as you taught me. This would be about Japan. I was working on the plant of Toyota, and one day I was criticized by my colleague, and he was saying something. You are not thinking about yoke-poko. And I asked him, "What does it mean, yoke-poko?" And he told me, "Yoke-poko, it's like a foolproof." So you, like an engineer, should think that everything could go wrong and never have a hope and never have a faith that all people know what to do. And I was so wondering, and I was listening to him with open eyes. And he also says there is such a law. It's named Murphy Law. If something could be done wrong, it would be. And suddenly I understand so deeply, and I like it a lot. You know, for example, several weeks ago, we were writing a program with one of pupil of School of Troubleshooter, Ramil Mamedov, and he is quite qualified programmer. But suddenly he was using very easy method to enter data. And I asked him, yes, but what will happen if the person or operator will enter not the digits, but letters or maybe commas or some other delimitaries? And Ramil says, but who will do this? And I told him, you know, you should think about everything, because it could be child, it could be pregnant woman, it could be a person that maybe doesn't know your language. So always you should do bulletproof program or foolproof procedures. And I was and suddenly I saw as Ramil нахмурился, yes?
Yeah, he got like grumpy.
He was like grumpy, thank you. And then he asked, and how many checks should we make in our program? And I told you know, usually if you write industrial program, it's about 400. And he was saying, and you always do 400 checks? And I say, yes. When I was writing my hackers editor, I was forced to do 700 checks. And he asked me, but why? And I was saying, okay, let's imagine that in my hackers editor head, you could make calculation of any string. So, for example, you will write something in a row, like give me factorial of 1 million. Then my editor would try to make multiplication 1 by 2, 2 by 3, 3, and so on. And suddenly we will be out of range. We will fill all the memory, and head would be crashed, and the operational system will crash. But maybe on the background mode, there are several other very important programs working, I don't know, for Deutsche Bahn or for Russian Aeroflot, or maybe for some other hospitals and so on. So you should always think what will do people if they, for example, want to harm to your environment.
Well, when we actually think about, let's say, actually take this example, when we think about the industrial level, and we do have a sufficient number of all of the checks, but then it's also probably comes with the price. It could be, you know, like price implementation, and then probably there is another part, like price of like a paying taxes or like paying fees and damages when this mistake will occur for the customer, or maybe for like another corporation that is buying this software or any product. So what kind of, I would say, thinking should be in the head of the person who actually trying to apply this foolproofing method or tactics?
I will say you several tactics. Thank you for this word, for reminding of this word. For example, sometime when, for example, surgeon would make an operation, he would mark or she would mark leg or arm with special marker. And you know, it's very funny why you do this. But this was for double checking, because sometime someone could cure a quite healthy leg. It already happened several months ago. A very famous skier, figuristka, skier
Yeah,
girl.
skier.
Skier girl, thank you, was under operation about meniscus, but suddenly it was discovered that she had a surgery on a healthy neck, knee, on healthy knee. So it was like a disaster for her career. The same would be, for example, when you are going to make furniture. It's also very funny, but people who make this, they also will use markers for any part of the wood they should cut out, because sometimes you will mark something like a line, and another person would make it vice versa. There is a joke we have already used it in our previous show. Customer ask to the builders, to constructors, to make something on the drawing. And suddenly he came to inspect and found a huge hole with a light on the bottom. And he's asking, but what is this? I was expecting to have a lighthouse.
Well, this is actually exactly a good example of the foolproofing. And when, let's say, we're trying to actually not to only develop like how exactly it will work, but even do the testing, because at a certain point of time, you may think that your foolproofing mechanics actually quite perfect on the paper, they work well, but then it's also reality. So how exactly you should proceed with applying all of these things? And maybe I'll give like one case. There's one thing that I'm currently working on. It's like a trigger, and it triggered when you do something with the phone, whether you say a specific word or when the phone is actually falling down from the specific height. And when it's falling down, it's not only, like change of the attitude, it's also barometer or maybe even the GPS. So at certain point of time, you also need to make sure that, it hits the point at exactly parameters that you set. So again, going back to the question, what should be mechanics of conducting tests to make sure that foolproofing can actually protect the fools?
There is a joke in Russian language, like an anecdote. One girl is saying to another something like this: "It's a good choice to have smart weights, умные весы." It's okay to say smart weights?
Smart weights.
Smart weights. I was for business trip for several days. Suddenly, my weights were showing that someone was waiting on them with a weight of 59 kilos. And when I showed this message to my husband, suddenly he was admitted that he was, how to say, going aside?
Yeah, he was having an affair.
He was, thank you, having an affair. And another, for example, the same situation, there are smart rings, and one girl also saying to another, it was very funny. From very first time we wear it, I was wondering why my boy is running at night and his heartbeat was so high. But after our sex, even at this time, he was not so прилежный.
Neat or like a nice.
He was not so nice.
Not diligent.
And diligent, yes, correct. So I came to his house and found exactly at this time he was having an affair. So if you think that something could go wrong, you should think about it as it's real. And I have a best example in my life. Once upon a time, I was summoned by my father, please, could you go to our neighbors? But I don't know them. I was just visiting him for one night, as usual, and I have no intention to spend my time with unknown strangers. But he was saying, come on, you're a computer guy, so you should help them. There are two smart boys and they couldn't use their computer. And I came, and it was time when computers were big and the system block was standing under the desk, and I was покорно.
Meek.
I was meek to disassemble it, and suddenly I understand that I would fix it in a moment. If you remember, there was like connection like a PC2 connection. Do you remember? And they
yes, for
on
the
the
mouse.
end, yes, and they on the endings they were with several colors. For example, green for keyboard, and for example, purple or magenta for mouse. And those boys, they just swifted, changed it out, and nothing more. And when I put all these wires on their place, everything was work. For them, I was as a wizard, as a magician, but for myself, I was like a fraudster. I have nothing. I have done almost nothing, but I have all the glory.
Well, they would be lucky if there will be a comp word for the mouse as well. It was also a thing. And when we actually speak about foolproofing, for the mechanisms or maybe even for systems, okay, it's cool. But sometimes there are also some idea of foolproofing for, like people. For example, I do remember there's something that we already discussed. When you go to the restaurant, the waiter should not be asked you about your previous visit because, hey, it's actually, it might be something that you don't really want to share with your significant others. So what might be, let's say, if we're conducting or like doing any customer experience improvement, and we just want to make sure that we protect people from people, how we should think.
It's a nice phrase, to protect people from the people. We have a dentistry with my wife, and sometimes we have a very unusual situation. For example, several weeks ago, it was a boy. He was working in a bank, and suddenly he pronounced to me, because we know each other for a very long time, and he just say, "Come on, I will ask my boyfriend to come. Could you check his tooth? I would pay." And then I was staring at him, and he suddenly pronounced, "But yes, do not say this to my wife and to my children." And I was so astonished. So I was in the role of magician, and it was like medical, I don't know, medical secret. Or another, for example, it was we have a girl. Girls, they make escort service. Is it okay to say?
You could say like that.
And sometimes they say, "Come on, let's start our procedures. And if we will have insufficient funds, we will ask our boys come and pay." And each time they came with another boy and another man and so on. And they always say something like this, "Just you could pay for this dentist service." And, they say the same phrase to all these boys and men, and they all so happy to hear it.
Well, I do believe sometimes foolproofing also could be used to like a different types of the benefits. Then my last question will be how knowing about foolproofing would help to make this world a better place.
It was maybe more than 100 times when I was working on some technical projects, when I was working with some customers, and sometimes just not full phrase or not completely understandable order will make a disaster. For example, people will think that tomorrow, that's not day after this day, but it after weekends. Or for example, to fire all the people, people will understand to fire even guards who could guard the territory and something like this. And each time when I give an order from one moment, I always think, how could people misinterpret yes misinterpret what I say. And sometimes I ask them, "Could you please repeat by your words what I was just saying?" And sometimes they give me just opposite picture, and I was so happy. I ask them.
Well, sometimes using the another person point of view also could help you to make sure that you would help them to avoid the mistakes. And we review the skill of foolproofing and how it could be helpful to you. Stay in peace.